In the meantime, I'm very pleased to welcome Nicole Sykes. She's Director of Policy and Communications at Pro Bono Economics, and they work on the economic challenges caused by long-term sickness. I've got to say, Nicola, welcome to the show, but I'm a bit intimidated today. I'm getting all these experts turning up on the show, and I'm feeling marginally inadequate now. So let me put to you, if I may, the sort of emphasis that came out of the budget on the impact of economic inactivity in the country. What I thought was very interesting was Jeremy Hunt did it, but also the Work and Pensions Secretary of State picked up on the same point. He talks about lost potential, particularly of those who are not working, who could work in terms of age, but are not working, as a huge cost to the economy. Can you first of all kind of set the scene as to what is making this number up, and if you've got any thoughts on why it's risen so dramatically?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you've been talking a lot about the health element of that, and I think that's a really big part. So somewhere between 2.5 and 2.9 million people out of work because of long-term sickness. Now, a fair chunk of those people we wouldn't expect to be in work anyway. They have very serious health conditions or disabilities that we wouldn't expect to be in work. But we have seen a rise of 400,000 people since the start of the COVID pandemic saying that they aren't working because of long-term sicknesses. If we look at what that is made up of, it is fair to say that it is a complicated picture. Musculoskeletal conditions, so things like arthritis, things like back injuries, etc., are the leading single cause. But it is really important to say that a lot of people aren't off on long-term sickness because of a single cause. About half are off because they have multiple health conditions. In fact, about 40% off because they have 5 or more health conditions that are preventing them from working. And mental health, I think, is the other really big one. A lot of people not off primarily because of mental health, but as a secondary condition. So they have a physical condition and then things like depression and anxiety because they are unwell, because they are out of work, because they are in difficult circumstances. Mental health then comes into that as well. And mental health is increasingly among
and that particularly is depression, I think, is what you were talking about. Look, first of all, you've talked about post-COVID, so I think we can all sort of rationalise probably what's happened there in that sort. But can you explain, if you like, there was a general sense, certainly when I went into Parliament in 2010 onwards, with Ian Duncan's attempts at reforms, that actually for those that can work, who may have a long-term condition, it was really important to try and help get them back to work for all sorts of reasons, including their own well-being, which I think many of our callers have identified. Have we changed the system, for example, so people are getting, shall we say, less support, they're not being contacted, maybe the systems aren't working well, or is there a system in place, a part benefit system, that kind of makes people look at work and think, I'm not going to be that much better off as well, so I might as well stay at home?
Yeah, so the system hasn't changed that much since the pandemic, but I think 2 stats that always stand out at me when I'm trying to understand this problem. First is that only 1% of disabled people who are out of work and older workers who are inactive because of health, only 1% of them move into work within a 6-month period. So, you asked them 6 months ago and they say they're out of work because of that long-term sickness. You ask them in 6 months' time, only 1% have been helped into work. So that tells you that whatever we're doing, it's not working. The other thing that always stands out to me is that some research went on and they found that only 10% of disabled people and older potential workers who are off because of that sickness had actually had any contact at all to help them get into work.
And we had a caller, not disabled, who made exactly that point, who wasn't being able to get back to work. So that is a systemic failure, really, because as I understand it, certainly this was the intention, everyone should be able to get access to employment support to help them get back into work. So I think we've got a systemic failure going on there. Can I ask also, in terms of the complexities of the long-term health conditions, the cynic in me, and I'll say it to provoke this conversation, says, all right, so is the system, in fact, steered towards it being too easy to effectively choose not to work? Is it just a GP signing things off these days, and then you wait months for the system to catch up with you, and it may then, as you've pointed out, try and get you back into work or not? And part of me is driven by saying, hang on, we've all spent 2 years during a furlough, getting at home, getting used to not working, being paid by the state. Has that just encouraged the different change in attitude to work that you can then take advantage of, inverted commas?
It's really interesting that you raised the point about GPs, because actually it's not just that people aren't working because of health and are out of work because of health. Actually, if you look at our employed population, which is the majority of the population, obviously,
yes, yeah.
Actually you're seeing sickness impacting the economy and impacting the businesses from employed people as well. Last year, we had record levels of employee sickness days. So it went up to about 8 days a year per employee, according to CIPDs. That's a lot of days per employee where they are taking off sick. But also a rise in employers saying that they're worried about presenteeism. So employees...
Sorry, can you explain that? About what?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the term we use about workers who have come into work, but they are actually sick and they are not performing to the level that you would want them to. So, coming in unwell, we know that we don't work as well when we are well. And we are seeing increasingly employers, businesses worried about staff turning up who are actually sick. So I think what we have is a population that is getting sicker, both within our businesses and out of work.
I just want to touch on something else. You mentioned the older people perhaps getting some of those conditions like arthritis and so forth. I'm encouraging, I want to hear from people over 50 particularly who are struggling to get back into the workplace. Being ill and over 50, even having a minor condition, that must be a huge disincentive to employers as well, because they will start to let old prejudices and some genuine concerns creep in as to the suitability of the person they're applying on. Do you have any specific views on the impact that the long-term illnesses you're talking about have on the older 50 or above?
Yeah, so over 50s make up the majority, the bulk of the biggest group of people who are out of long-term sick. As you say, you would sort of expect that, firstly, because older people get ill more, and also because it does then become harder to get into work. I know there are some initiatives going on in the private sector to try and encourage more businesses to understand the benefits of employing older workers, to understand...
Something I was doing 10 years ago, 13 years ago.
Yes,
it's absolute, it's a win-win for the employer, for the employee. You got I'm going to do it just because I think employers, if they're listening, they're reliable, they're used to the workplace, you know, they're experienced, and they're often not after your job. That's my pitch. Listen, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Nicole Sykes, Director of Policy and Comms at Pro Bono Economics. They're experts in the economic challenges caused by long-term sickness. So tell me, what is your experience with long-term illness in the workplace, either from what you've seen with colleagues, what you've seen as an employer, or yourself? I'd be fascinated to know, because I'm really sensitive to the fact that you can sit here in a studio and jump to some conclusions. I'd love to hear firsthand what your experiences are on 0344 499 1000. Let's go and talk to Shirley in the Cotswolds. Hello, Shirley. Thanks for calling.
Hello, that's fine. I agree with everything that you've just said at the end of your conversation with that lady. I am retirement age. I've just started to get my pension, state pension. My whole career was working for an airline, so for 35 years. I was doing a physically exhausting job, flying through the night on my feet, blah, blah, blah. You know what it entails.
Yeah, I know it sounds very glamorous to everyone, but it's bloody hard work, isn't it?
It's really, really hard work, but it is glamorous as well. Yeah. At the end of your working day, you're lying on a beach in Barbados with a rum punch. However, you know, to get from A to B is hard work. But I had about a year at home after COVID, and I couldn't wait to get back into the workplace. So I've had to learn a completely new set of skills. I work at a food and science technology company, and I'm front of house working on reception and doing loads of things that I never in a million years thought that I'd ever be able to do. I am really valued by the CEO of the company and all the senior staff, all the junior staff, the young scientists, doctors of science and everything. They're in the 20s. They all drop by to have a chat with me. I absolutely love it. I am, you know, I've still got my...
Shirley, I just want to ask you a question. How did you get the job?
I just applied for it.
So no prejudice and no, you know, you didn't sense, oh dear, Shirley, she's over 50 and we're not going to go here, or was there any of that?
No, because the company I worked for, they actually do employ a lot of mature people. And I can tell you, the job I do, I have to liaise with the younger people. I can honestly, all this mental health and long COVID, it's tosh. Younger people are the ones who ring in with a sniffle and a sore throat, and I'm not going to come in today. The more mature people, we are there because we want to work. I'm being heavily taxed because I'm going to work.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm being heavily taxed, but I'm in the job because I want to do it. I job share with another lady of a similar age to me. We're both glamorous, 60-odd-year-olds. And the young people in the company absolutely love her.
Now, listen, if you said, because I'm agreeing with you, everything you've said there, because I do think we have less resilience in younger generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but be careful, you and I are going to get cut off because the whole production team, bar one, are from that younger generation. So look, let's not generalise. It's not everyone, okay? But what would you...
in my experience, Nick.
Okay, but in your office, does some of those nice young scientists that are wandering around, or whoever they were that you said, you know, what are they like? Are they not are they staying at home for a snivel?
No, but they are working from home a lot. No, the scientists are not, because they're in the lab.
Yeah.
But a lot of our staff do work from home. And you try, I have to put customers through to these people. You try getting hold of them when they're working from home.
They're making the coffee, answering the door, probably doing their washing.
They absolutely are. I know that, because I'm the one trying to find them, to put customers through to them, and you can't find them. So I'm sorry, but I am speaking from experience, and more mature people are at work because they want to be, and they don't skype.
You have a very strong message, Shirley. I fear you and I are going to be founder members of the Grumpy Old So-and-So's Club. But, you know...
No, but I'm not grumpy.
No, you're not. You're so cheerful. No, you are so cheerful. But unfortunately, I've had these conversations and I get not quite dismissed like that. But I do like to think we have some experience to offer when we're talking about workforce. Shirley, you've offered fantastic views. Thank you so much.